Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto nutrition specialist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com bringing you the one and only Keto Without the Crazy. Today's topic is a viewer request. I had somebody ask if I would talk about emotional eating. And frankly, you could probably have a whole channel devoted to emotional eating, not just one video. So this is actually going to be the first of several that I'll do about emotional eating. Not back to back. I'll just pepper them in here and there. Maybe every couple of weeks I'll do one because it's a huge topic and I really am, despite appearances, trying to make videos that are shorter. And I didn't make any notes for today. I just kind of wanted to get this recorded. So I'm just going to give some preliminary thoughts, and then maybe in future videos I'll go into a little more detail. So I guess where to even start? I mean, emotional eating. Why do we do it? We do it to escape those emotions. Right? We don't emotionally eat. We eat to escape emotions, right? There's and eating is only one way that people escape from or try to cope with difficult emotions, whether it's stress, it could be grief, mourning, anger, loneliness, boredom, tiredness. I mean, we eat, if you consider those all, some of those are emotions, some of them are physical feelings. I would sort of lump that all under the umbrella of emotional eating, or eating for reasons other than hunger, but not in a social setting like, oh, it was a party and I just wanted to eat, or oh, my mother made my favorite thing. That's not emotional eating to me. The emotional eating is really eating to soothe, comfort, or get away from one of these emotions or feeling. Again, the boredom, tiredness, anger, loneliness, grief, whatever. So it's funny, my co-author on the book End Your Carb Confusion, he has like thousands of patients over all the years he's been practicing, and people will say, I'm an emotional eater. Oh, but Dr. Westman, you don't understand. I'm an emotional eater. And he says to them, well, can you at least not emotionally eat carbs? So when somebody asks me about emotional eating, I'm assuming that they mean carbs, but then I'll talk in a minute about not carbs. I assume when somebody says I'm an emotional eater, they are turning back to sugar and carbs. They're eating cookies and pastries and macaroni and cheese. The comfort foods. Comfort foods are all carby. They're carbs and fat, but they're all carbs. Ribeye steak is not anyone's comfort food. I'm sure there's somebody watching this who's going to leave me a nasty comment. I eat ribeye steak and it's my comfort food. Okay, fine. You go eat your ribeye. For most normal humans, comfort foods are a mix of carbs and fats. Sometimes just carbs, like something like gummy bears or jelly beans, something that's almost 100% sugar and no fat. But there's a lot of comfort foods are things like French fries, macaroni and cheese. I don't even know what else. Bread and butter, like a fresh warm bread slathered with butter. Carbs and fat. And so it's interesting because when I think about that emotional eating and how we eat to comfort and soothe through some type of feeling or emotion that is uncomfortable and we want it to go away, and we're using food to make it go away, and it doesn't go away, we just cover it up. Temporarily we're covering it up. The emotion is still going to be there when the food is gone. But I'm going to get back to the food in a sec. This is what happens when I don't make notes. I did want to say, food is only one way that we do this, that we escape from uncomfortable or unpleasant emotions and feelings. Some of us use food, and I say us because, hi, I do it. Some of us use food. Some people use gambling. Some people use compulsive shopping, like they'll just rack up a lot of credit card debt, clicking on buy on the internet, scrolling everything they see. Some people, of course, use alcohol. Some people, I'm sure there's other pornography, video games, there's all kinds of habits and actions and outright addictions that we use to distract ourselves from uncomfortable emotions and feelings, either to distract or to numb out, to just numb out. So it's interesting because if a situation or a feeling, an emotion, if it's so painful and so uncomfortable that you're looking for a way to escape from it, and a cookie does that for you, and a piece of cake does that for you, or a handful of granola out of the bag does that for you, how difficult could that emotion really have been if a cookie made it all better? That's the main point I wanted to make today in this first video about emotional eating. Like I said, there will be more in the future, but how unpleasant, how very, very difficult and unbearable can an emotion or a feeling be if a piece of pie makes it all better? And it does. I mean, I have experienced this myself. I'm saying you do feel better, even if it's only temporarily. Even if it's only while you're eating it, and maybe for 5 minutes after, you still feel a little more pleasant than you would if you just sat there and felt the feeling. But I think it's just funny that we normally don't really ask ourselves that question. Well, how bad could this situation possibly be if that bowl of pasta is going to just make me feel all better? And I don't expect that question, or any of us asking ourselves that question, to fix this problem. Like, I don't think next time you're in this situation and you're asking, oh, my boss is such a jerk and I just want to go to that vending machine and get my candy bar, I don't expect you to necessarily stop the first time, but you could at least be aware. Like, you would probably almost laugh at yourself, like, man, my boss is such a jerk. Like, what? Like, me eating a candy bar is not going to make my boss less of a jerk. I'm just going to eat a candy bar and then I'm going to feel really bad about it. So, most of the time, these foods, eating emotionally doesn't ever make the situation go away. It doesn't fix whatever's wrong. It doesn't undo whatever we did, or whatever thing is going on. It just postpones it. You still have to deal with that stuff. The emotional chickens still come home to roost. So all we really do when we emotionally eat is we are postponing the reckoning, or distracting ourselves, soothing, which I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Some people use exercise in that way, and that's good up to a point. But there is such a thing as exercise addiction too. Exercise is like anything else. Too little is no good. Too much is no good either. Like, there is a limit to the amount of exercise that is actually healthy for you. So, we could say there are potentially more constructive ways to self-soothe and all that. Like, I'm not saying there's no role. There are reasons that we do eat for reasons other than hunger. But they don't usually solve the problems. They just delay us having to deal with them. But that's not always a bad thing. If you need that, you can't, you're up here. You can't take one more second, one more obligation thrown your way, one more responsibility, one more person asking you to do. You can't. You're going to explode if you don't have a piece of pie. Then that's where I turn more to Dr. Westman's advice of, like, okay, you're not hungry. You don't need food. Your body isn't calling out for food because it's been 6 or 8 hours since you had a meal. But you're going to eat. God damn it, you're going to eat. You come hell or high water, you are going to eat. You're not hungry. It's not going to fix the problem, but you are going to eat anyway. And that's just the way it is. Okay. Assuming you want to stay on a low carb or keto diet, can you not emotionally eat carbs? There's 800 million other foods that you could eat, right? I mean, in the ideal scenario, you wouldn't eat when you're not hungry. But it's so easy to say that, and it is one of the most difficult things to actually do, is to not reach for that food when you want it, even though you know you're not actually hungry, you're not physically hungry. So again, ideal scenario, you don't eat. Next scenario down, can you not eat carbs? Can you emotionally eat some pork rinds? I can't, because pork rinds are a red light food for me. I'll link to a video I did on red light foods. Basically, like, if you know anything about traffic lights, red light means stop. Same thing with the red light food. Stop. You are not eating this. It's not on your menu. Forget it. So pork rinds used to be a major binge food for me, and so it's easier for me to have none than it is for me to say, oh, I'll just have a handful, because one handful turns into the bag. Whether the bag is a little snack size bag or the economy family size bag, my serving is the bag. So I don't have them anymore. So what can you emotionally eat? Can you emotionally eat a slice of cheese? Can you emotionally eat some olives and some prosciutto? I mean, if you're going to emotionally eat the good stuff. Don't eat some Oreo cookie that costs 2 cents. You know, if the whole package is $1.99, how much does one cookie cost them to make? Like nothing. It's dirt cheap because it's garbage. If you're gonna emotionally eat, why not treat yourself to the good stuff? If you're in a position where you feel bad and you need to be lifted up, and that's bad, because we shouldn't have to do this anyway, right? I'm not saying like, oh, well, you feel bad, why don't you at least have gourmet food? Like, that's the wrong perspective too, and I know it is. I'm just trying to plant the seed that if you're going to eat when you know you're not hungry, then eating something, at least if this is a concern for you, eating something that will be less metabolically problematic for you is a better way to go. Eating something like a couple of slices of cold steak. You know, next time you grill a steak, don't grill one steak, grill like 5 or 6. Keep them cold in the fridge. You can slice them up and just eat them plain, or dip them in blue cheese dressing, dip them in guacamole. I snack on cold meats all the time. Cook up a whole pack of bacon, stick them in the fridge. I mean, it's great. Or, you know, can you snack canned sardines, canned salmon if you're a seafood eater, hard-boiled eggs. I keep like a dozen boiled eggs in the fridge at all times, because it's just instant zero carb snack, instant good protein and awesome micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals. So again, ideal world, you don't emotionally eat. Second most ideal, you know, second down on the totem, is that you eat foods that will not have quite such a detrimental impact on your blood sugar and insulin, you know, or on whatever issue you might have that comes from whacked out blood sugar and insulin. Like, could you eat something that won't trigger a migraine for you, or that won't trigger a gout attack, you know, gout flare, or that won't give you a rash of some kind, or like an eczema flare up? You know, we know what carbs do to us, you know, and everyone's different. Not everyone has those issues, but you could, the best case scenario is that you don't emotionally eat, but if you do, I think there's a way to, like, for lack of a better phrase, to mitigate the metabolic effects. I don't even want to say damage, but it really, you know, just to mitigate the effects, and to keep you either in ketosis, if that's important for you, keep you in ketosis, or at least keep you in a low carb metabolism. You know, and I'm almost 15 minutes in. I'm going to end soon. Let me just make sure there's nothing else I want to say right now, because there will be more. Lord knows I'm forgetting a ton of stuff, so I just kind of wanted to do a quick intro. But I guess I'll end with saying this is such a common issue. So to the person who asked me to talk about this, thank you, because I'm almost shocked that I haven't already. I've done several videos on like binge foods, trigger foods, alcoholic foods, I call them. I've done stuff on that. I don't think I've ever actually done one on emotional eating. And it is very, very common. And so if you're out there and you think you're the only one, you think everyone else who goes keto just magically figures it out, and because all you see on Twitter and Facebook and Reddit is like, oh, I'm never hungry. I eat once a day just because I'm scared not to, or I have like a giant steak and I'm happy. Like, that's the minority. I think the majority is people who struggle. And I will say though, even if you're struggling, and I said this in one of my other recent videos, the rant I did about keto being unsustainable and a fad, even if you still have problems with this, I'm going to guess that the problems are not as severe as they used to be. You probably either you eat emotionally less often, or you aren't eating as much when you're not hungry. You're kind of maybe able to rein in the quantities, or maybe ideally the kinds of food you're eating when you're not hungry are a little more aligned with the low carb and keto sort of approach. So, you are just so not alone. And I think that's really important for people to hear. And it's not said enough, because again, all you see on your social media is the perfect, happy little world. Everybody else has this keto thing all figured out perfectly. And they don't. I don't. I've tried to make that clear. I haven't even really gotten into the full details of things I've done with food, things, habits I've been into, but you're not alone. You are not the only one, and it's okay. It's a learning process. This is a long-term learning process. And anytime you learn a new skill, like a new way of eating, or if you were learning to drive a car, learning to play a musical instrument, learning any carpentry, any kind of new thing, it's going to be bumpy. You're going to hit some roadblocks, you're going to make some mistakes, but you keep going. You keep learning, and with each mistake you learn and you just keep getting better. So don't psych yourself out. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel ashamed, because you're a human being who has complex emotions, and sometimes we try to soothe or forget about those emotions with food. And is that a great thing to do? No. But is it the worst thing in the world ever? No. So, go emotionally eat some pepperoni if you must. Get one of those nice sticks of pepperoni and you just slice it off, and that's what you can emotionally eat next day. If you're kosher, get some beef pepperoni or something. Emotionally eat beef jerky or whatever, kosher beef jerky, or halal or whatever if you have different religious dietary prohibitions. But that's it for now. I'm going to have to do some brainstorming and think what else I would want to say about this topic. But if you have specific points you would want to hear me talk about, or specific questions you have, definitely, leave a comment. And so many books have been written about this. I've read only a couple of them, so I'm only comfortable recommending ones that I've read. But there's one or two that have been recommended to me very highly that I haven't read yet. So once I read them, I can recommend them. I actually, now that I think about it, I have one on my coffee table that I'm reading for the second time right now. And it's pretty rare. There's so many books that I want to read, that I want to get to, that it's really, really rare for me to spend time reading a book a second time. So the fact that I'm going through this one a second time is let that be a testament to how good I think it is and how helpful. And it's not that like, oh, it didn't help me so much, I need to read it twice. No, it's like, this is so helpful the first time around, I'm going to read it again and see what else I can get from it. I was going to walk over and grab it. I don't have to show it to you. The book is called Chasing Cupcakes, and I'll put a link to it down below in the notes. Chasing Cupcakes. The author is Elizabeth Benton, Benton. And she has a podcast called Primal Potential. And I've been binge listening to many episodes from way, way back. She goes way back. So I gotta be honest, her more recent episodes I'm not so in love with, but go back, look at the topics, see if there's anything that speaks to you. But the book is called Chasing Cupcakes, and I really cannot recommend it highly enough. And I will recommend some others in the future. There's one called Women, Food, and God by an author named Janine Roth, I think, R-O-T-H, but her name is Janine, G-E-N-E-E-N. But I'll link to it. And don't let the title put you off, Women, Food, and God. If you're not a religious person, you're not like a faithy person, I read the book. I'm not a Christian, and I read the book, and I was not put off. I didn't feel like it was preachy in any way. So, women, food, and God. But I think chasing cupcakes is really dynamite. And I'm gonna stop talking now. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.